Welcome to Samvad. In 1853, American Commodore Matthew Perry led a squadron of US Navy warships known as the Black Ships to Tokyo Bay with the goal of establishing relations with Japan. It did not lead to a fight, but the expedition laid the groundwork for a tariff agreement known as the Harris Treaty between the United States and Japan. The use or threat of military force to advance foreign policy objectives became known as gunboat diplomacy. Now, President Trump, through his unilateral 25% tariff against India, seems to be weaponizing tariff to achieve political goals, just as his predecessors did with the gunboats. Now, to discuss this, we have with us today Shri Sibal, Foreign Secretary. Welcome to Samvad, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me.
So Trump, through his post on Truth Social, announced 25% tariff plus unspecified penalties on India. Now, this post has been read by virtually everybody, but it's important to lay down the context. So I'll read the post in entirety. I quote, "Remember, while India is our friend, we have over the years done relatively little business with them because their tariffs are far too high, amongst the highest in the world, and they have the most strenuous and obnoxious non-monetary trade barriers of any country. Also, they have always bought a vast majority of their military equipment from Russia and are Russia's largest buyer of energy, along with China, at a time when everyone wants Russia to stop the killing in Ukraine. All things not good. India will therefore be paying a tariff of 25% plus a penalty for the above, starting on August 1st, unquote. Now, I believe this August 1st has now been extended to August 7th. He's given us a space of 7 more days. Now, this seems to suggest that tariff is being weaponized. Marco Rubio has today said that India buying Russian oil is not the only point of irritation. China, on the other hand, is the largest buyer of Russian oil and gas, and EU still imports Russian energy products. Yet, sir, no mention of penalties against both. Now, this makes me confused. I would request you to help us understand as to what exactly is Trump trying to achieve against India.
It's very difficult to comprehend what he's doing because, the discourse on the American side until very recently was that the relationship with India is the defining partnership of the 21st century. So what happened to that outlook on the future of India-US relations? And suddenly he's targeting India, he's needling India, he's threatening India, he's demeaning India, he wants to sanction India, he's threatening India. He has very unfortunately touched all our raw nerves. For example, he's revived the Kashmir issue, the talk of mediation. I'm sure he's not such a fool that he has no concept of the history of Jammu and Kashmir and India-Pakistan relations and everything else. But yet and then in order to tell us that he intends to put pressure on us openly, he has stepped up his relations with Pakistan. He has announced that they are going to invest in major oil exploration in Pakistan. He has been lauding the Pakistani leadership, great leadership in Pakistan. He did the totally unprecedented step of inviting the Field Marshal, so-called, of Pakistan to a lunch at the White House, which was in fact a huge signal to the civilian government of Pakistan and the Prime Minister of Pakistan that he doesn't consider them to be the real decision makers, which again, in terms of the signals America wants to send all over the world, is totally contrary to all the so-called values and everything else that America has stood for. He doesn't understand the implications of this down the road if he takes such cynical steps. And then, very surprisingly, he has revived the whole issue of India buying Russian oil, when India actually has been buying discounted Russian oil since the start of the Ukraine war in 2022, and there was a lot of pressure on us. We resisted that pressure. We stood our ground, and we have repeatedly said that we are a hugely energy deficient country. Uh, the price of oil is very critical for our economy. We will buy oil wherever it is cheapest, and that these are not political decisions. These are purely economic decisions. We tell our oil companies to buy the oil wherever is cheapest, and pressure on us to stop buying oil was, in fact, extremely cynical move, because as the outgoing American ambassador, previous American ambassador, said publicly, that we advise India to continue buying Russian oil because wanted international prices of oil to be stable, because the oil prices at the pump would have gone up if Russian oil was taken out of the market. And then, as you know, the refined products from oil, Russian and other, was being sold in huge volumes to the European Union, for example. And European Union never protested against that. And suddenly you find that Trump is making this an issue. Then on the defense ties with Russia, yes, initially even the Biden administration began to put pressure on us to wean us away from our defense ties with Russia. We didn't do that, but we obliged the Americans in a different way by stepping up our arms purchases from United States, from virtually zero at the beginning of the century, or 2005 when the nuclear deal was signed. We have today $22 or $24 billion worth of arms that we have purchased. And we are discussing more arm purchases, PI-8, surveillance aircraft, Striker, infantry vehicle, as well as Javelin anti-tank missile co-production and all that. We have taken a lot of steps in terms of getting into the Pentagon supply chains by manufacturing those things that the American military needs to be manufactured in India. And there are joint development programs like the GE-404 and potentially GE-412 engines for our fighter aircraft. So there's a lot on the anvil. So suddenly for this man to make the issue of our defense ties with Russia and link it to tariffs, I mean, this is absolutely arm twisting. Does he expect that the threat of 25% tariffs, even if it gets fully implemented, will deter us from stop buying Russian oil or stop buying Russian weaponry? Now, you take the reverse, and this is where the problem is in our dealing with the United States, or for that matter, any other country. Supposing that Russia was to adopt the same kind of arm twisting towards us, that you are buying American arms, you are buying more and more LNG from United States, you are going into the US orbit more and more, you are in the Quad, and therefore we are going to be difficult with you with regard to maintenance of your your Russian arms. We're not going to we're not going to transfer to you or sell you or give you on these an additional Kula submarine. We're not going to service your submarines. We're not going to service your frigates. We won't give you we delay supply of spare parts. And when Modi rang, Putin has said that he rang him up that we needed urgently more supplies of fertilizers. And the Russians will say, well, go and get them from the Americans or wherever else you want to get them. I mean, Russia doesn't do that. Russia doesn't do that. In fact, if you look at the picture around in terms of our partnerships, major partnerships, who is creating problems for us? United States and now Europe, because they have sanctioned Yara Energy. So they've gone back to this policy of sanctions. But the one country with which we have no problems, where the relationship is stable and is not being used as pressure point, is Russia. I mean, this is so evident. And therefore, we need to continue to nurture our ties with Russia and not give Russia the message that our ties with them is dependent on the goodwill of the Americans. If the Americans are tough with us, we will reduce ties with you. And if they are if they reduce the pressure, we'll increase ties with you. This is not this is not how you're going to deal with a major power like Russia, with which we've had 70 years of stable, trustworthy partnership. And then, as you rightly quoted just now from his text, he says that we're not done much business with India. This is totally ridiculous. In 2005, or rather in 2000, the total volume of our trade with the United States was about 14, $15 billion. Today, just the trade part is $130 billion. If you include services, it's $200 billion. So how can he say that they haven't traded much with us? The $200 billion is a very significant number.
True.
And then in the joint statement that was signed when Modi went to Washington in February, the a target of $500 billion of mutual trade by 2030 was signed. So this is what the perspective is. And this is what we have joined the United States in defining as the perspective. So how can he say that they don't do much business with us, which means that this $500 billion is not committed to that at all. He doesn't want to create the conditions under which we can achieve this target, rather. And then he says very insultingly that India is a dead economy. I mean, he should at least consult the IMF and the World Bank as to what they think about the Indian economy. It's the fastest growing big economy in the world, with growth rates of over 6%. And everybody is agreed that by 2030, we'll be the third largest economy, if not before. And in PPP terms, we are a very major economy even now. It's just that when you talk in dollar terms, then the whole figures get, how should I say, they don't accurately reflect the size of the economy in terms of its purchasing power. So for him to then dismiss Indian economy as a dead, then why does he want to have a trade deal with a dead economy? It doesn't make any sense. And then he talks about our monetary tariffs as obnoxious. Now look at the word he uses. It's extremely strong word. One can say this whole wretched tweet of his is terribly obnoxious.
True.
Insulting. And he seems to have made the whole thing very personal. There's something that is itching him, some anger with India, which is very personal in nature. And he sort of keeps repeating 24 times. He said that he was responsible for the ceasefire between India and Pakistan, although we have said officially and now on the floor of the parliament that there's no question of they telling us, forcing us into a ceasefire, number one, or that they link the ceasefire to any trade issues. But despite that, he keeps saying, now, if a man is so untruthful, can lie repeatedly, openly, then what value do you put on his word of any kind? So it's an unfortunate situation. Now, having said that, one can, of course, express one's anger and one's, how should I say, one can reject what he's saying, but that's not the end of the story. At the end of the day, the United States is the strongest country and biggest economy in the world, strongest military power. We have put ourselves in a situation based on the assumption that we had now overcome the past mistrusts in our relationship, and we are now on a safe wicket in terms of developing important ties in sensitive areas with the United States. So we invested a lot in this relationship, including on the technology side. And so we have become dependent. So it's not easy now to step back without cost. And the cost can be considerable because we have plans to, in various areas which need investment from abroad, which needs technology transfers from abroad. And America is the biggest source of that. So we can't just wish it away and turn our back to it. At the same time, America has the capacity to create trouble for us in so many ways, not only Pakistan, but they're dealing with China and everything. In fact, I'm very doubtful about the meaning of Quad now, because the kind of politics that Trump is engaged in and his worldview and his lack of interest in geopolitics and focusing only on tariffs. Now, in the Quad, what are they going to discuss? Tariffs, or what are they going to discuss? The rest of the thing he's not interested in. So,
So
uh,
you see
to
that
come back to what I was
preferably.
saying, and I'll just complete my thought that uh, we have to find a way to make sure that the relationship doesn't spiral out of control, which means that at the government level, and I'm glad we are doing that, we are taking a very sober position that we are interested in a mutually beneficial, balanced, and fair deal,
Hmm.
a deal which we'll continue to explore, but we will protect our uh, national
National.
interest, whether it is in relation to entrepreneurs or MSMEs or our agriculture sector, and that we've cited our Indo-UK FTA as a kind of a gauge of our seriousness in
Hmm.
terms of having mutually beneficial and not one-sided trade agreements. So we've kept, we from our side, we have not poisoned the atmosphere
Hmm.
by reacting sharply and taking Trump head on. But of course, our public opinion is very agitated.
Sir, is this perhaps not irritating him? Is it not irritating him that countries like Korea, Japan, the moment he announced tariffs, they rushed all the senior people to America to placate, I'm sure, to placate Trump. But India has maintained a very mature step. So either it's irritating him, he's finding it very irritating that perhaps Modi himself is not reaching out to him, the Prime Minister is not reaching out to him, and maybe, sir, I mean, on the other hand, is this maturity not being misunderstood as weakness? Could that be the case?
No, I think you put the nail on the head that yes, he is personally irritated that Prime Minister Modi is not personally contributing to his happiness because this is what he has said that all the leaders want to make US happy,
Hmm.
but Modi is not making the effort to make him happy and talking to him and placating him and saying you're a great chap and you're doing wonderful things and I admire you and stuff like that. He wants to be flattered and he
Hmm.
wants to get the upper hand to show that I have made all these leaders kowtow to me, which actually he has succeeded in doing.
Hmm.
Look at the deal he signed with Japan
Hmm.
and of course with the EU, 15% tariffs on all EU products and no tariffs on US. In
Hmm.
fact, there's a huge backlash in Europe against this one-sided deal.
Hmm.
And then what has he forced the European Union to agree to within a framework agreement? It will never get implemented, I can tell you.
Hmm.
$750 billion of purchases in the next 3 years of US LNG, which is two or three times more expensive than Russian gas,
Hmm.
and $600 billion of investment. Who will invest? Brussels will invest. Ultimately, it's the private company that have to invest.
Hmm.
And they're not going to invest simply because they have agreed to a framework agreement. So $600 billion of EU investment,
Hmm.
plus more arms purchases from the United States. Now, this is what he wants India to agree to, that you buy more arms from us and you buy more LNG from us. And this he wants a commitment from Prime Minister, and that's he wants to talk to him so that he can issue a tweet to say,
Hmm.
I've had a wonderful talk with my great friend who's a great leader, whom I greatly admire, Modi, and we've agreed that they're going to step up arms purchases from us. They will buy more and more LNG with huge figures, and they'll bring huge money into our national exchequer, etc., etc. This is what he wants. I think you're right. He's an egomaniac, and he wants to be flattered.
So the EU deal on the face of it, as you quoted the numbers, it looks more like capitulation rather than a deal. So is that the deal basically he's looking for in India with that $500 billion trade deal they spoke about in February? So it's all about MAGA. It's all about MAGA, and I would use another acronym. I would invent an acronym, sir. It's not about make. It's not about making India great. It's only about MAGA. So $500 billion worth of trade, and if he gets into this deal, only one-sided trade, because they will impose tariffs, and you have to give them zero tariffs, as the EU has already agreed to. So 0% tariff for US products, And even if 15% tariff for Indian products, so it's going to be one-way street then again.
I think this is what he has in mind, and he succeeded, at least for the time being. He has succeeded with the European Union as well as with Japan, which has committed to investing $500 billion in the United States. Even Saudi Arabia has agreed to $500 billion of investment. UAE has also agreed to some kind of a figure close to this. So his appetite has been whetted. So he has committed all these countries to invest hugely in the United States. And what he has told the South Koreans? I, I'm going to announce. I've announced 25% tariffs on the Koreans, but if they want to buy back these tariffs, they have to do this and this and this. So he's clearly making it that in the case of India, if you extrapolate this, that I've announced 25% tariffs. If you want to buy back this, which means you want to get this figure reduced, then you have to make other concessions to me. And he wants to be able to have a chat with the Prime Minister so that he can tweet later, putting words into Modi's mouth and creating huge internal problems for us. As it is, the opposition is on the war path, and he will attribute to Modi and our Prime Minister certain concessions, which actually may not be true, just to make himself look very good in front of his MAGA audience that I'm succeeding. So he's a very difficult man to deal with. But to come back to what was earlier saying, that we have to handle the situation as best as we can. We can't be cavalier about it, saying that, look, he can do what the hell he wants to, and we don't care. That is not going to take us anywhere. So, but at the end of the day, so when it comes to our core interests, we're not going to accept bullying by him, whatever it costs.
Sir, are these countries, two things flowing out of this, sir, are these countries which are agreeing to his, I would say, sir, absurd demands, are they agreeing on just on the basis of the fact that, say, let's next 3.5 years, this fellow will basically pass on into history and then we'll get back to business as usual, the older business. Are they agreeing on that? And did he for a moment think that Prime Minister Modi will agree to a deal which involves selling out, because that is what the opposition and the politicians say, selling out our interests in agriculture and dairy sector, which are very politically very sensitive sectors. The leader of the opposition is already claiming that India is a dead economy because Donald Trump has said so. So it's a dead economy, and Modi did a deal with him which led to the ceasefire, which was no deal, and then he will capitulate on dairy and agriculture sector. So there is very politically very little space for the Prime Minister to maneuver.
See, the thing is that all this has happened just before the parliament session was convened and during the parliament session. Absolutely the worst time, politically speaking, for Trump to do and say what he has done, making life very difficult for the government and interfering in our domestic politics. Either he's not conscious of this and nobody has told him because they're all afraid of giving him good advice. They want to know what he says on Truth Social, and then sort of they join the bandwagon. So you see, on GMOs and on dairy, etc., India is not going to agree, no matter what the pressures that come from the United States. Though, mind you, from their side, whether it is Howard Lutnick or anybody else, they are very clear that India has to open up its agriculture. And they make Japan also buy some agriculture products from the United States. I was seeing something in the press. No, they're just brutes. I mean, they don't care. They don't bother about your sensitivities and whatever your arguments are. It's a lobbyist-driven country, and the policies are lobby-driven. And it's always been the case, but in the case of Trump, it is much more open. So, and the lobbyists don't care a damn about your concerns about blood meal, what you feed to the bovines and your other concerns about the GMOs and everything else. So that is one part. Uh, the other is, if you heard the Treasury Secretary, I was very surprised that he again brought the whole issue of India buying Russian oil. And he says that India is not a good global actor since it is
Hmm.
buying a lot of oil from Russia. Well, what does that mean? How is United States a good global actor? Not only because of the policies they're pursuing, they have walked out of the WHO, walked out of UNESCO, walked out of the Paris Climate Change Agreement, spurned the United Nations, uh, totally support Israel in the total destruction of Gaza, which Trump wants to convert into some kind of a Riviera. Uh, then totally making the WTO non-functional by taking decisions which are openly violative of the WTO. And then I'm not talking about all the wars that the United States has engaged in, whether I'm not talking of the past, but in the more recently, whether Yugoslavia or Iraq or Libya or Syria. So it is a good global actor. And what has India done to earn the opprobrium of not being a good global actor? Because we buy oil from. Look, we didn't create the problem between Europe, United States, and Russia. We
Hmm.
didn't create the Ukraine problem. They are the ones who thought that they had a great opportunity to strategically defeat Russia. It's not worked out.
Hmm.
And because it is not worked out, their frustration is growing. And they have then to see how they can transfer their frustration onto the shoulders of other countries. And India has become the target. Suddenly, we are the ones, because we buy oil, Russia is able to continue its war. I mean, what kind of a logic is this? But this is what it's come down to.
The following his tariff post, sir, he then put out a post where he announced that Pakistan and US will work together to develop their massive oil reserves. Now, nobody knows where these massive oil reserves are, but that is what he said. And then more insultingly, sir, he then one day maybe Pakistan will sell oil to India. Then today he's announced 19% tariff on Pakistan. Now this leads me to two questions, sir. Does this sudden pivot to Pakistan signal something deeper which he's planning? And there have been a series of posts from Trump and his cohorts, I would say, which are very insulting to Indian sensibilities. Like the one about you spoke about the Indian and Russian economies being dead economies and going down together, and he he gave a damn to. Now, this after 3 decades of building a very strategic partnership which had been growing over a period of time. Even Elbridge Colby, one of his very close associates, I was reading somewhere, and I'll quote him, that India is an ally in the old sense, to be regarded as an independent and autonomous partner. This is L.B. Coleridge. Why does Trump want to lose India?
Well, I think he feels that he's strong enough, and he has various points of pressure that he can bend India to his will. Uh, and that if he doesn't bend India immediately or in the foreseeable future, he'll keep increasing costs to India. And one of the costs is is Pakistan, using Pakistan as a point of pressure. Now, with regard to this oil business, there have been a lot of talk about Pakistan after they discover sui gas, that they have hydrocarbons either in Pakistani territory or offshore, do this and that. But and they have been auctioning blocks like we've been also auctioning blocks, but there have been no takers and no investment has been made. So theoretically, they may have some shale gas, they may have some offshore thing in the Indus Basin. But the point is that when companies want to invest, after it's private companies that are going to invest, they're going to invest in blocks or in areas where there is very, very substantial proven results.
Hmm.
Also, because you have to compete not only in a region with huge oil producing countries, whether it's Saudi Arabia, UAE, Iran. Well, there is Venezuela, there is Nigeria, and Russia, of course. If even if Pakistan theoretically has something compared to what the others have in terms of proven reserves, will dictate foreign investments. So theoretically saying that there is potential is neither here nor there. That is one part. The other that strikes me, and I've commented on that, is that China has been there for so many years, biggest partner of Pakistan, biggest defense partner, lips and teeth, mountains, Himalayas, deep as oceans and stuff like that, the BRI stuff. And they are a hugely energy importing country. If there was really that kind of potential, why has China not tried to explore it? And they want to develop copper mines in Afghanistan in an extremely difficult situation. So, and they're already there in Gwadar and Sindh and Balochistan area. So why haven't they picked this up? So this is just, you know, this way of projecting the great successes of his foreign policy, opening up business, attracting business, this and that. That is one. The other, my fear is that he may start rearming Pakistan. And two things I have in mind. One is, of course, this Kurila fellow, this CENTCOM chief, who said that the counterterrorism cooperation in Pakistan has been phenomenal because the fellow who did some killing in Afghanistan,
Abhigate.
They sent him back. So they've forgotten all the history of Pakistan duplicity and all the killings that the US forces suffered at the hands of the Pakistanis indirectly through the Taliban. They've forgotten all that. But suddenly, and then they have decorated him, given him whatever nishan that they have. And so now that kind of a dynamic, coupled with the fact that Trump, because of his highly personalized anger now against India, may decide to announce some kind of a defense deal with Pakistan, that's possible, which will obviously rile us more and create difficulties for us. As it is, during his first term, I think it was during his first term that he announced some $300 and some million worth of defense aid to Pakistan to maintain their F-16 or something like that. Anyway, that's the Pakistan angle. And on this, the China part, which you haven't asked, there again, we have to be very alert because he's placating China. He's trying to strike a deal with China. They have delayed now the application of tariffs after meeting in Stockholm for another 90 days or something like that. And he may suddenly, do something on the China front, which can become problematic for us, which may give more encouragement. See, China is watching very carefully what is happening, and the moment they realize that the India-US relationship is in trouble, this creates more opportunities for them to create more trouble for us. Because all said and done, it's a kind of a dissuasion to China that India and United States are coming together in defense area, the Malabar exercises, Indian Ocean, this and that, cohorts, stuff like that. Moment they feel that India has been cornered, they have more opportunity to put pressure on India. So we have to be careful.
So what is the way forward for India, sir? Because now we have to look at the eventualities for ourselves. Very briefly, sir, because time is running out, sir. What is the way forward for India?
The way forward is, as I said earlier, the government must stand its ground on basics, but leave the door open for a continuing dialogue, and continue the dialogue to the extent that they're interested in the dialogue. Not yield on our basic things, not make compromises, because you make compromise on this, tomorrow he will bully you and ask you to do something else. We should be extremely careful not to send wrong signals to Russia. I understand that our state refiners have stopped bidding for Russian oil. I hope it's not true. because this is a thin end of the wedge.
Mm.
So we should maintain our ties with Russia. So when Putin comes to India later this year, we should announce some big deals, both in defense and energy, so
Mm.
as to send a clear signal to the United States that there is a limit beyond which they
Mm.
can't press us, and keep the door open to a dialogue with China, but not touch China, because China would look at opportunities while they maintain, and this has been their policy, talk to us, but put pressure on the border.
Mm.
So therefore, but talking to them is not unhelpful.
Mm.
And raise our profile a little bit in the BRICS, because Trump is very annoyed with BRICS. He wants to impose 100% tariffs on BRICS countries. We should raise our profile there to the extent that we can. It's a difficult situation, and it's a fluid situation. But I don't think that India. Two things. I don't think Modi should talk to Trump unless it's extremely clear beforehand already uh, that what will be the nature and the content of the discussion, what will be the basis of the discussion. It cannot be that he uses this as an opportunity to try and browbeat Modi and then say something publicly which will he will be embarrass us. There's a danger in this. Because he doesn't keep any secret. He talks to people and then he on Truth Social he reveals whatever he wants to reveal and the way he wants to
Mm.
reveal, not projecting himself. So this is basically it. That keep the posture of reasonableness, maturity, engagement, responsibility at the government level, not get into tutu manner with this. But through various channels that we have, and we have friends in the Congress, even in the administration, we should activate, I'm sure we are doing that, our diplomacy to say that these are our bottom lines. If you want to rule the relationship, go ahead. But we are not interested in doing the relationship. We would like to carry it forward. We have an agenda. It's an agreed agenda. Let's work on it. But if you don't leave us any option, but that's your responsibility, not ours. But we are willing to go forward with you.
So I believe a signal has been sent out that the arm twisting will not work because Bloomberg has just reported that India is not interested in buying F-35s. So,
After what happened in Kerala, you want to buy F-35?
but the signal had to be sent out. I believe. Let's see what comes out of it because it might make him more irritated, more riled. But we have to be prepared for it. So thank you for sparing time, sir. It's been a very instructive discussion, and thank you so much for sparing time for this discussion.
My pleasure. Bye. Thank you
Thank
for
you, sir.
inviting.
Thank you, sir.
Bye. Bye.